us this evening. Sue Gollifer is going to be taking us on a talk through her career, and also she has been a member of Printmakers Council from its very early days. As you all probably know, Printmakers Council has been in existence since 1965. And Sue Gollifer has been a member since 1969, so she knew many of the founder members, and she's been involved with Printmakers Council from then until now, which is quite incredible, and she probably deserves some kind of a medal for that. And she has also been chair of the Printmakers Council in the past. But as well as her involvement with Printmakers Council, she has been one of the pioneers of computer art and printmaking using computers and digital technology. And so she'll be speaking about her career and her involvement with that as well.
Okay, so as Kate just said, I've been in the Printmakers Council forever, really. And at some point I was chair of the PMC, but when I was going through the archives to set up this PowerPoint, I couldn't find anything. I mean, I think they're buried in there. It was just one of those things you do. I was never treasurer, and I don't think I was ever secretary. I mean, printmaking developed in the 1960s spectacularly, really. I mean, I actually had a contract with the gallery in Bond Street in an exhibition at the Serpentine. I don't think they would dream of doing that now with printmaking, but anyway, maybe they do. And I will talk about my ongoing research into archival projects. And at the moment in my office, I've got the PMC archives, which should have gone to the library, but they wouldn't have it. So I've got it, and it will go, you know, to the committee, and then we'll go to the V&A. I personally went to Southern Graphics twice, actually, once in Virginia and another time in San Francisco. And I couldn't believe how much. I should have taken a photo. I have got a photograph. I'll send it on to you, of how much printmaking is recognised in the States, and probably it is in the UK as well. But I mean, they have a sort of members' night when people put out their portfolios, and there was a big room full of people with portfolios, and then a bell rang and another load came in. So anyway, we're talking about how, you know, traditional methods of print and now the computer in printmaking has revalued the approach of artists and printmakers, and it's just got much broader. You know, I taught printmaking, as you probably know, at the University of Brighton for many years, and then I ran the MA at London Print Studio. And I think now, I say Brighton had a specialist printmaking course, and now it's part of fine art. So there's a kind of crossover with all the things that I'm saying in the last paragraph. This is my archive in my studio, just in case you wondered where it was. It's very safe and very dry. And it's got, it hasn't actually got any physical prints. It's just got a lot of things, private view cards, a few posters, and just general information, really. So I thought I'd just tell you briefly how I managed to be, after studying a degree in painting, I ended up doing a specialist printmaking course at the University of Brighton. And Harvey Daniels used to run that. But when I was studying in Coventry, what was significant was art and language started there. And it did make me think about my manifesto. I don't know how many students even know what a manifesto is, but and the thing about it really, it was talking about collaborative practice. So this is only part of a screen print. I worked with another student, And uh, at the time, screen prints weren't seen as real fine art prints, and the printmaking staff would say, "Oh, what screen prints? No, they're not etchings. Oh, they're not licensed." But anyway, we carried on. And but again, back to my manifesto, if you ever see some of my early prints, I worked with somebody else. It was called Gollifer and Wetton, and it's in uppercase. Nobody, people said to me, they don't know that you're a woman. You know, you may be discriminated because of that. But Phil Wetton, he went off to America, and I stayed in the UK. And as you know, I've taught in a lot of different institutions around the southeast. So this is one of my early screen prints, and I must have been mad. The amount of colours that I put on these things was ridiculous. And this is 1969. One of the things that really got me into computers was there was an amazing exhibition at the ICA called Cybernetic Serendipity. And in the actual fact, I mean, these are sort of pioneers of computer art. And I know some of them as well, Roman Voroshka, for example. In fact, I've got some of his prints. He's in his late 80s or 90s now. Anyway, this is one of my screen prints. You can see that I worked with the system, because after seeing Serendipity, I wanted to work with a computer, and I knew some people in the computer department at the Sussex University, and I said, you know, what do? I want to learn programming. And they said, well, you're a woman and computers are expensive. And no, you know, and you're an artist, no, you're not going to have that. So I took a deep breath and said, right, well, I'll just turn myself into a computer. So these ones, I used to do a lot of drawings and a lot of systems and lots of things like that. And then these are my later ones, where I actually got away from the square, which was unbelievable for me, because I worked at 19 inches square for a long, long time. So in 1919, I was seconded to the Simulation Research Centre, which became the Computers in Creative Work. And obviously I had to do some research. And my research was the use of new technology and the traditional fine art practice of printmaking. But anyway, working in the centre, Colin Bearden, who was the professor there, set up a conference called CADE, Computers in Art and Design Education. And I kept saying, can I have an exhibition? Can I have an exhibition? So I had an exhibition that accompanied CADE, and it was called Arcade. And it was the UK's first open international exhibition of electronic fine art prints. And it included limited edition artist prints, which at some stage in their production involved the use of computers to generate and manipulate the imagery. I mean, I sort of said, well, perhaps if you had your print and you just walked past that, I can't remember what the early Apple computers are called now, you would say that it was sort of part of that thing. So the Arcade, I think I went right up to Arcade 4. And this is the exhibition downstairs, the gallery. And Arcade, it did travel a lot. I went to Europe, and I'll show you in a minute. Here you go. This is me in Russia, with Andre, who brought me over, and his brother Vladimir, and I can't remember the name of the other one. But it was interesting to go. I went to Novosibirsk, and it was just the first sort of opening of anybody being allowed there. There were 7 universities and 2 art colleges, but it had been a closed city. And I've been back there 3 or 4 times, and I've done other exhibitions there. It was kind of, I don't know, when I got there, I couldn't understand why they kept giving me cups of tea and chocolate. And that was because there'd been a ban on something, and that was the only food they had, or only money they had. I mean, one day I was hanging at the exhibition and I said, "Can I take you all out for coffee? Because I need a coffee and I can buy you one as well." And yeah, I made some great friends there. Here I am in Russia, and Andre put on a little one-person show for me, which is on the left. And on the right, there are 2 Canadian printmakers. And this was a printmaking exhibition that took over most of the town, and we awarded prizes as well. So I brought printmaking to Siberia. It was funny. I went back after my first visit, and I can't think what he was called, the principal of the art college said, "Oh, come and talk to me." He said, "Since you've been here, I have totally changed the curriculum." I was going, "What?" But luckily, he just meant it brought computers in, so that wasn't quite so bad. I'm now going to talk a little bit about the Printmakers Council catalogues and things in the archive. I will say I didn't, what's the word? I was given the archive. It was already notated and things. So it was going to the library. They wouldn't have it. So I just took care of it. And it's nice to see its light of day now. There are a lot of newsletters as well. I didn't include too many. I mean, they're there. I mean, it is a really well organized archive. There are catalogues, and I say the newsletter as well. I wondered why sometimes the exhibition catalogues didn't have pictures, but I suddenly realized we're so used to having our mobile phones and taking a picture of it, and it's digital and you can put it in your Facebook or whatever you want to do. Whereas it was probably a lot more difficult to have original things. I will say, just in passing, when PMC first started, we were incredibly rigorous about who could be in it. So people used to come and deliver a portfolio, and then we sat in a room, the committee, and decided whether or not we wanted them. So I think going through the archives yesterday, I suddenly realized I came across one of the newsletters that said the PMC is bankrupt. What are we going to do? And I think that's when the subscriptions started coming in, I think, to raise the money, because we never ever got an Arts Council grant. Maybe because Birgit Skilled, her husband partner, worked for the Arts Council. Maybe it was conflict of interest. I don't know. I don't know how we survived, but we did. So I'll say I just included a few things from there yesterday. And this is the move from Dover Street, where we first started. And then we had to leave because whoever's place it was moving back. And we moved into Clerkenwell. And it was incredibly run down and a tiny little room. But I know it's all gentrified now. It's kind of weird because it was like a place where nobody else wanted to go. But they had an outside space outside the office, so we had our committee meetings in there. And again, I just included a few things from the catalogues, which are usually black and white. I did find some in color, but it was I think it was only one. So And then I found one that says 25 years of the Printmakers Council, and I know you're doing 50 years now. Wow.
Nearly
I-
60, Sue.
60, oh my
Only
God.
60, yes, it's very soon. Couple of years.
It just shows how old I am, don't. I will say one of the things that made me change to work with computers, I'll talk about that a bit later on, but was the chemicals used to get to me, you know. But I did love oil-based inks, and when they moved over to water-based inks, I thought, no, this is not going to work for me. I like the vibrancy for it, you know. But yeah, my lungs aren't very good, but I'm still alive, so there you go. Anyway, I dug some things out that were in color, and I like this Printmakers Council one, which is in Los Angeles. I don't know whether anybody went there, but it looks good.
I think I'd remember if I had. I don't think I did.
And then there was some flyers of people's work, but it's like a little catalogue with people's work in there. I can't remember what the edition number was and where we got the money from. I don't know. But it is interesting to see past members' work. 3 pieces on the side are again a little sort of catalogue. I'm not quite sure, but I thought we had a sort of proper print portfolio somewhere, but I certainly haven't got it. I don't think I have. No, maybe we got donated somewhere. And I quite liked the quote on the other side, you know, talking about the recent exhibitions. I remember the one in the Royal Festival Hall and the Barbican, and we got Scarborough there, and you know, Malta and California. But I remember the Barbican one. It was so big, and I was sort of, you know, I came up from Brighton, and I think I was teaching them people screen printing in the middle of the Barbican, and I may have done the same at Royal Festival Hall. Just a little screen and a squeegee, and the people walking past. I think, yeah, I mean, the quote above that, you know, when it says, you know, the PMC, you know, wants to help artists bring their work before a wider public and fight for the prejudice and ignorance in established art circles in an effort to secure printmaking a greater recognition and a wider understanding. I've been in many things where we try to describe the PMC or printmaking or something, but it remains the same. I just think it's just got a broader picture now. I say in Southern Graphics, I just couldn't believe how many printmakers there were. After I'd been in Russia with the exhibition and the 2 Canadian artists and some of the other ones, I brought back I brought some of the curators from who were in Russia to Brighton, and I set up this exhibition called Hot Plate. The only thing about it was that I didn't have any money to frame it. So I had to sort of say, well, this is off the wall, you know, it's not particularly hot. And I think most of the stuff was just hung with magnets, really. But that was quite an exciting exhibition. I was talking about digital printmaking and digital print, and I talk about forms and covers of printmaking practices, which cannot, in terms of one form of aesthetic or from a practice, it exists in new conceptual spaces through virtual worlds and distributed networks, allowing for mediations, transactions, and radically new physical and aesthetic frameworks. My worry now is that with digital, you know, a lot of my friends are digital artists, but they wouldn't call themselves printmakers. And I talked to one of my friends in the States a couple of days ago, and we were talking about this thing that is that you can make them any size you want, which was never my intention. My intention was I did mini prints and I did these other prints that were 24 by 30 paper, and that's what they are. I don't want to change them into. I did do some very large canvases, but that was sort of slightly different. So I am now, if the word is retired, I just seem to be busier than I was when I was at work, really. And they made me an honorary fellow of the School of Arts, which means I've got access to anything I want, my lovely technicians in printmaking if I need something. I just don't get paid for it. And I ran the ISEA International Board for many, many years, and I organised symposiums all over the world. The next one is in Paris, which I'm going to. Before that was Barcelona. We've been to Korea, all over the place. I can tell you more about that at one point. But and I'm going to have a one-person exhibition at the British Computer Society in March next year. I need to put in for an Arts Council grant to help, for somebody to help me sort out the prints that are in a pile that my kids wouldn't know what to do with, because some of them are just proofs, you know. But I will do that. You know, if you want to get in touch with me and ask me questions, I'm quite happy to do that. I say I'm based in Brighton. I'll shut up now, and then we can
That's
talk.
Brilliant, Sue. Thank you so much. That was so interesting, and it was brilliant to hear about your amazing career and your involvement with Printmakers Council for over such a long time. So we've got a little bit of time now to ask Sue questions if you have any. Actually, there was one I had, actually. One of your leaflets that you were showing there, I think there was, I sort of caught the name of Gertrude Hermes, and it said a tribute to Gertrude Hermes or something.
Yeah.
And so I think she was one of the founder members of PMC, was she? Do you know?
Yes, I think she was.
Yeah.
I tried. There was too much stuff to go through it.
Of course,
You know.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, certainly. I mean, to begin with, as it was in the 60s, it was very male orientated, and then here we're not all, we don't know who the participants are, but but it is. Yeah, I mean, when I first started teaching, I taught all over the place, but printmaking. And I went into what was called the senior common room with a lot of men painters. They wouldn't speak to me because I was a woman and because I was a printmaker. It seems bizarre now.
It does. I think you had the last laugh, didn't you? We've got a question from Stan. He says, where do you think the future of printmaking is going? That's quite a wide question. I'm wondering, Stan, whether you're thinking of AI or just generally.
I'm thinking, obviously, there's a lot of digital art out there, and obviously a lot of traditional art. I wondered whether the future of printmaking is going to move further and further towards like computer generated art rather than traditional methods.
Yeah. What do you think, Sue?
I think, you know, being hanging around in America and with their printmakers, they're really still, you know, I'm about to say stuck, and it's a rude word, but they still have, you know, proper prints, I call them. But unfortunately, I you know, I work as external examiner, and I can see universities are just closing the printmaking departments down. I mean, I think Brighton is very lucky that it's still got its printmaking, all the stuff, and 3 technicians, but it's now called, it's not called printmaking anymore, it's called fine art.
So that's interesting. So it's almost like we've come full circle back to the back to the 60s and the reason that the PMC was founded, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people want, I don't know where I was external examining, but somewhere or other, and whoever was talking to all the externals, they said, what we need is white rooms with computers that anybody in the university can use. You know? End end of story. Yeah.
Although there could be an argument there should be room for both. I mean,
yeah.
What do you think, Sam?
I just wonder whether that it's kind of can go the same way as photography, because everybody now is a photographer. Where when I first started with the darkroom and everything else, that was a more of a technical and taught process. Where nowadays, like computer generated imagery is so relatively straightforward to do. All you need is a computer, you don't even need a printer, you can get it printed somewhere else, and a tablet, and away you go. But where printmaking itself is a much more, the way I see it, a much more skillful base. Etching and wood engraving and so on and so forth. There's much more of a skill required than kind of a lot of computer generated work. I just wondered what your thoughts were, Sue.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, and because I was a union officer and whatever, is that universities want to cut money, and it's even worse since the pandemic. And they just think that printmaking, with etching presses or, which we do have. We've got all the stuff and 3 technicians, that it's too expensive for them. They just want bums on seats, really, rather than people walking around working together. Yeah.
Although presumably, Sue, there are a number of artists printmakers that would combine the use of the technology with the traditional skills. Do you have some of that sort of crossover? So they might conjure up the image on their computers and then transfer it back to a more traditional printmaking method.
Yeah, totally. I just did an online presentation with my friend in the States, and we were talking about crossing over, and people were talking about, I'll send you a link when it's live, if they're waiting for permissions. But I mean, I personally now, if you see some of my prints now, I actually make things and then scan them and then manipulate them, because I'm so used to being a screen printer and having my hands dirty or doing something that just to work totally on the computer. I just can't do it.
But that's true. But then for you, because you've been there from the early days of computer art, your process, even though you've stuck with computers, the process must have changed enormously over the time that you've been involved with computers. It must have been so much, I imagine it would have been much more difficult at the outset to get computers to do what you wanted. I don't know enough about computers perhaps to say that, but this is what I'm imagining. And then as time goes by, it differs. But
well, that's why I invented, curated arcade, because it was, you could do amazing things on the screen. And how do you get it off the screen? Onto a bit of paper. And that's what arcade was about, really. It was actually showing the possibilities that you can do it. Yeah.
And what was the initial reaction to your work at that time? Were people a bit sniffy about it because it was, or were they very excited by the fact that it was a new technology?
It's a bit like screen printing. It's not an art form, or anybody can do this,
Yeah, which is what they said about photography when it first came out as well. So that is very interesting. I'm not sure. I've got lots of nice things people are saying about you down the side in the comments. I don't know if you can see all of those, Sue.
I've got them up. I can see Denise. Some of the people were my students at one point. Steve Mumberson was.
Steve was, and Denise, I think. Sinclair's got a question for you.
Hi, Dan.
After Sinclair, then we've got Denise. Yeah.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for your presentation, Sue. Very interesting. You mentioned, I think, previous exhibitions with Printmakers Council way back, I think, in the 90s. And I think you mentioned locations such as Royal Festival Hall and the Barbican, where we had exhibitions way back then. I was just wondering, it's a sort of wider question, not necessarily just for you, Sue, but maybe for the council as a whole, all of us, is to whether we can sort of, be ambitious and get back to those sorts of venues if they would have us. or, you know, if we can get printmaking back to the status that it obviously had at that point, that we can go into venues like that and have exhibitions, which would be wonderful for the status of printmaking, if we can get back to that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't quite know how you do it really, but as the PMC started was to give people knowledge about printmaking. You know, maybe we should up the knowledge somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's interesting. I've run some workshops and, you know, do quite a few of those around Lincolnshire where I live, and people say to me that you know, they haven't done anything creative since school, and they love getting their hands dirty with the ink and all that sort of stuff that you mentioned previously. I think there's a sort of appetite now for traditional and modern versions of printmaking that people would love to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, working at the University of Brighton, they keep moving me around different departments. Denise would know that. And I was in graphic design at one point, but the graphic designers and illustrators just wanted to learn printmaking, you know? There
Right.
seemed to be a need to actually have some kind of craft, yeah? I've got, there's a message from Roz. She was on one of my MA students when I ran the MA at the London Print Studios, actually.
Oh, brilliant. That's good. Oh, Denise has a question for you. Denise, are you still there?
I am indeed.
Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for a really inspiring, but you've always been inspiring talk. And I'm sure everyone is really invigorated to know that you've taken on so many challenges and inspired the last speaker and everybody else. And we are going to be at the Barbican again very soon, thanks to the committee and the members, as you know. And I agree, we really should be fighting for more prestige, because the Printmakers Council, unlike some of the other organisations, is fresh, is not afraid to show lots of different kinds of work and put themselves out there. And that's exactly what you did when you were at Brighton, when I was your student. You gave me time to consider the deeper thoughts behind my work when I just didn't have the language and the confidence to speak about those underlying deep thoughts, as well as the expression, whether it's digital or physical and hands-on. And the other thing I just wanted to mention was how great it was when I took your work in 1992 to Russia as well.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything like that before.
No, exactly.
And it was in contrast with such extraordinary other people. That we had Elaine Kalowski, we had Stuart Bullen with gay imagery, and we had Joe Winkleman, who was then the head of the RE, in contrast with very delicate little etchings. So you, with your wham bam, brilliant graphic bold work, which was hand printed in oils, was you know, a great invigorating contrast to the delicate work of Joe Winkleman.
Sue, when you first had digital printing going on, did people actually, I mean, obviously you didn't really have inkjet printers, did you really, when you first started? So
yeah, I mean, there certainly weren't Irish prints or Giclée or anything like that. They were pretty basic. I will say I sold one of my computer prints in a PMC show that went to Germany. So that, but I think it would have been faded by now. I feel as though I need to get in touch with them and say, would you like me to reprint them? But it doesn't seem kind of right either.
How did you print them then, Sue? How did you print them? What sort of process did you use?
Yeah, I wrote a thing for Artist Newsletter. I know it's called AN whatever. About I did quite a lot of research about different printers actually. Yeah, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't like, you know, just press a button and it comes out the other end.
No.
I worked quite closely with one of my friends who worked in the computer society, not computer society, computer department, you know.
Okay, yeah.
So did you have to go special, you went specially somewhere where they could actually, not, I mean, obviously you did images that were screen printed and or reinterpreted and stuff like that. But I can't quite imagine it, how you must have started out, you know, because how did you transfer the image? I mean, what sort of program did you use, or is it completely not around anymore?
No, I used to use a lot of different programs. Some, you know, there was a thing called Super Paint, and there was Painter, and then obviously Photoshop, and other ones, 3D ones, and I just used to amalgamate myself. I was just like mixing up ink, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to comprehend it now. You just press a button. But although I was surprised when I was doing this presentation, and I thought, you know, I was just taking pictures with my iPhone, which is why they were so bad. But I did have a scanner there, and I thought, I've never used a scanner for years. You know, I don't know, things move on and different things, you know. I've been involved in a thing called SIGGRAPH, which is a big computer graphics conference, and they had an art gallery in there as well. So I was chair of the art gallery, and I had 120 artists in there. But I can send you a link. No, I did an exhibition with Anna Dimitri. Do you know her?
Yeah.
And I had, I think, maybe 3 or 4, I don't know, but they were starting from my early work to my more recent, and some younger person than me said, I can't believe that. I don't know.
Can you notice I've got tribute colours on today?
I know, well, I nearly did that, and then I thought that it's too much pink.
No, you can't have enough pink. Pink is a political colour.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I've had pink hair for a long time now.
Yeah, it's your signature.
So people know me, you know, but it is a palaver, but never mind.
Brilliant. Thank you. Any more questions? I'm looking down, I can't see any more in the comments. There's lots of very appreciative comments, Sue. Lots of people thanking you for your lovely talk. Sinclair says, thanks, Sue. Unfortunately, I have to go. Looking forward to the next talk. Hilary, thank you so much. Lots of lovely comments. Lots of people who know you from your work and you teaching them. That's fantastic. So you've obviously made a massive impression on all these people over the years.
I've taught thousands of students. I forgot to tell you now.
I can't see that anybody else has a question. Teresa, can you see anybody waiting to ask a question?
Can't. Have a look here.
I can't see anybody else, I don't think.
See anyone with their hands up?
No. So I think if we could all just give Sue a wonderful round of applause for her talk, or just to say thank you very much. Thank you, Sue, that was great. And we hope you do participate in the next exhibition we have, which will hopefully be, will be coming up in October. That will be excellent. And thank you so much for giving your time. As always, people can give these talks voluntarily, so we're very appreciative. Speaking to our members, so thank you very much. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, so that, oh, hang on, one more message. Let's just see what that one is. See if I can see it. Thank you. There we go. Thank you from Simon. Yes, brilliant.
Well, thank you all the committee for organising me to do it and make me do it.
It's always worth it in the end, isn't it?